On the edge of a vast kingdom nestled a modest village, where simple wooden houses clustered around dirt streets. The rural air carried the scent of wet earth and wood smoke, while birdsong echoed softly. It was there, in a small hut with mud walls and a straw roof, that a peasant couple lived. Their days were filled with hard work in the fields, but their hearts were overflowing with joy as they expected a child. The wife, named Margarita, radiated happiness as she felt life growing inside her. Her husband Anselmo looked after her tenderly, his eyes reflecting a mix of hope and apprehension. Life had never been easy for them. Poverty was a constant companion, and the uncertain harvest dictated the rhythm of their days. "Our son will bring light to our house, even if the walls are thin and the winter is harsh," said Margarita, her voice as soft as the breeze. Meanwhile, a shadow soon fell over the couple's joy. Margarita fell ill. A relentless fever sapped her strength, leaving her pale and weak. Anselmo watched, helplessly, as his beloved wife's smile faded, replaced by a suffering expression. Fear tightened his chest, colder than the morning frost. He loved her deeply, and the thought of losing her, along with the child they were expecting, was unbearable. "We will get through this, my love," he murmured, holding your feverish hand, trying desperately to keep hope alive amidst the growing darkness. Desperate, Anselmo sought help throughout the village, but no one had the knowledge to cure Margarita. It was then that a whisper reached his ears, a dark legend about a recluse who resided on the edge of the dense forest, a figure shrouded in mystery, rumored to have unusual gifts. With nothing to lose, Anselmo ventured into the dense forest. The journey was labyrinthine. Sunlight barely penetrated the canopy of leaves, and the silence was interrupted only by the rustling of leaves and the distant croak of a crow. Finally, he found the hermit's dwelling, a dark hut, almost hidden by vegetation. A woman with an enigmatic face, with eyes that seemed to contain centuries of secrets, answered his door. His voice, hoarse like the wind in the trees, offered to hear Anselmo's distress. He recounted Margarita's suffering, his voice choked with anguish. The hermit listened in silence, and then, with a mysterious smile, proposed a solution. She had the knowledge to cure Margarita's illness, but the price was singular. The child, when he completed his first year of life, would have to be handed over to her. Anselmo's blood ran cold. A shock ran through his body. Hand over your child. The idea was revolting, heartbreaking. However, despair gripped him. Margarita's life was hanging by a thread. He pondered, conflict tearing at his core. On the one hand, the love for his wife, the urgency to save her. On the other, the image of the son he didn't yet know, the stolen future. In a moment of agony, dominated by the fear of losing Margarita, Anselmo gave in. He agreed to the dark pact, without imagining the dark ramifications this decision would bring. The hermit, with a strange gleam in her eyes, nodded, sealing the deal with a silent wave. With the pact signed, the hermit kept her word. He prepared a bitter and mysterious potion, which Anselmo took to Margarita. To both their relief and amazement, Daisy began to improve. The fever broke, the color returned to his cheeks, and life blossomed again in his body. Soon, a girl came into the world, healthy and rosy, with golden locks that shone like the morning sun. They named her Rapunzel. The house was filled with laughter and joy as the couple marveled at their daughter's beauty. But the happiness was tinged with apprehension, the shadow of the pact hanging over them. The first year passed quickly, Rapunzel's every smile, every babble, a painful reminder of the day to come. When the 1-year anniversary arrived, the hermit returned, silent and implacable. Anselmo and Daisy hugged Rapunzel tightly, tears streaming down their faces. How could they hand over their daughter? But an oath had been taken. With his heart in pieces, Anselmo took Rapunzel to the hermit. The woman took the girl in her arms, her eyes fixed on the golden hair that shone brightly. Without a word, she turned and left for the forest, taking Rapunzel away from the parents who loved her, towards an unknown destination. The isolated tower, in the middle of the forest, stood like a stone prison, cold and silent, waiting for its new resident. The years flowed away like sand, and Rapunzel flourished in the tower, a solitary fortress that rose above the dense trees. The cold stone walls were his world, the blue sky above his only window into the vastness. The hermit, whom Rapunzel knew only as Mother Gothel, was her only companion. Gothel was secretive, appearing only once a day to climb Rapunzel's long golden locks. bringing with her simple supplies and rare words. Rapunzel spent her days exploring the nooks and crannies of the circular tower. He read the few dusty books that Gothel had brought, memorizing stories of distant kingdoms and extraordinary people. But it was in music that Rapunzel found true relief. His voice, clear and melodious, echoed off the walls of the tower, transforming loneliness into symphonies of hope. He sang about freedom, about flowery fields that he imagined beyond the forest, about the brightness of the sun that he could only glimpse through the small window at the top. His fingers traced drawings on the dusty walls, vibrant flowers, birds in flight, scenes from a world he longed to discover. Curiosity was an incessant flame in his chest. She questioned the outside world, the people who lived in it, the sounds and colors that her imagination painted. Although loneliness was a constant shadow, Rapunzel clung to hope, believing that one day, somehow, her song would be heard beyond the walls of the tower, and the freedom she so desired would become real. Prince Leo was known throughout the kingdom for his adventurous spirit and thirst for exploration. Riding across the borders of the kingdom, discovering unknown trails, and immersing yourself in the wild beauty of nature was his passion. One sunny afternoon, while venturing through the dense forest near the isolated tower, he became lost from his entourage. As he was looking for his way back, a melodious sound reached his ears. It was a voice, sweet and ethereal, that floated in the air like the song of a nightingale. Intrigued, Leo stopped his horse, his heart racing by the unexpected beauty of that melody. The voice seemed to come from deep within the dense forest, guiding him like an invisible beacon. Driven by curiosity, he dismounted and entered the forest, following the enchanting sound that called him. After walking through the trees for a while, he came to a clearing, and in the center stood a tall, ancient tower. Music seemed to emanate from the top of the structure. Leo approached cautiously, looking up. Suddenly, he saw a stern-faced woman arrive at the base of the tower and call out, "Rapunzel, throw down your braids!" To the prince's astonishment, long golden locks fell from the highest window. The woman grabbed her hair and began to climb with surprising agility. Leo hid behind a dense bush, his eyes fixed on the unusual scene, his mind filled with questions. Who was that woman? And who was Rapunzel, owner of that captivating voice and those extraordinary hair? The prince felt a strong need to unravel the mystery of the tower and its mysterious inhabitant. When the woman disappeared at the top of the tower, Prince Leo waited, his heart pounding with anticipation. After a while, feeling it was safe, he approached the base of the tower and imitated the words he had heard. "Rapunzel, throw your braids." A moment of tense silence hung in the air. Then, to his surprise, the long golden locks fell from the window, falling softly at his feet like a golden waterfall. Without hesitation, Leo grabbed the soft hair and began to climb, adrenaline coursing through his veins. When he reached the top, he found himself in a small chamber, and there, standing, was the most beautiful young woman his eyes had ever beheld. Her eyes sparkled like sapphires, and a shy smile lit up her charming face. Rapunzel opened her eyes wide, surprised and a little scared by the unexpected appearance. Who are you?" she asked, her voice a hesitant whisper. "I'm Prince Leo," he replied gently. "I heard your song and couldn't resist finding out who sang it so beautifully." Rapunzel's fear quickly dissipated, replaced by curiosity and fascination. They began to talk, the words flowing freely. Leo told of the world beyond the forest, of the vast kingdom and the wonders it held. Rapunzel, in turn, shared her dreams of freedom, her longing to see the world she only imagined. As they talked, an invisible bond formed between them, a mutual recognition and connection that went beyond words. Long looks, complicit smiles, subtle gestures. The first ray of romance began to emerge in that fortuitous meeting at the top of the tower. From that day onwards, Prince Leo returned to the tower daily. With each visit, he brought with him a gift, a rare flower picked in the forest, a sweet fruit found on his travels, or fascinating stories about the distant kingdom. Rapunzel eagerly awaited his visits. Time seemed to fly when they were together. They shared laughs, confidences, and dreams. Leo described the vibrant colors of the city's markets, the movement of people, the grandeur of the royal castle. Rapunzel, in turn, sang to him, melodies that welled up from the depths of her soul, melodies of longing and hope, now tinged with a new emotion. Love, a pure and delicate feeling, blossomed between them. nurtured by secret meetings and whispered conversations. Rapunzel discovered in Leo's presence the joy she had never experienced before. He was the outside world she craved, the freedom her soul cried out for. The prince, captivated by Rapunzel's beauty, intelligence, and sweetness, felt his heart belonged to her. He saw her as a ray of sunshine in his life, a constant melody amid the noise of the world. In each meeting, the affection intensified. The looks became longer, the gestures more affectionate. Rapunzel, isolated from the world, found her first and true love in Leo, a love that warmed her heart and illuminated her golden prison, even though she knew it was a risky love, a secret that needed to be kept under lock and key. But secrets rarely stay hidden forever. The hermit, Mother Gothel, perceptive and suspicious, noticed a change in Rapunzel. The young woman was more radiant, her eyes shone with a different light, and her songs took on a happier and more passionate tone. Gothel's possessiveness, her need to keep Rapunzel isolated and dependent, began to be eroded by a pang of suspicion. One day, while Rapunzel was singing, she absent-mindedly blurted out, in the middle of a melody, Leo's name. The hermit, who was watching her closely, froze. "Who is Leo?" he asked, his icy voice piercing the air. Rapunzel winced, realizing her slip-up. She tried to hide it, inventing a vague excuse, but Gothel was no fool. With cunning and incisive words, he forced Rapunzel to reveal the truth. Rapunzel's confession, the prince's secret visits, the love that had blossomed between them, everything came to light. The hermit's fury was terrible to behold. His eyes flashed with wrath, and his face contorted into a mask of rage. In a fit of fury, he took a pair of sharp scissors, and without mercy, cut off Rapunzel's long golden braids. Her beautiful hair fell to the floor, lifeless, like a golden veil torn apart. Rapunzel screamed, the shock and pain cutting through her heart. But Gothel's cruelty did not end there. With poisonous words, he expelled Rapunzel from the tower, abandoning her in a barren and desolate desert, far from everything she knew and loved. The following afternoon, Prince Leo, as usual, returned to the tower to visit Rapunzel. She called happily, "Rapunzel, throw your braids." The hermit, with a bitter smile on her lips, appeared at the window. In her hands she held the freshly cut golden braids. Leo, without realizing the trap, saw the familiar hair and felt his heart fill with joy. Little did he know that this was the beginning of a terrible misadventure. Gothel threw her braids, and the prince, agile and confident, began to climb. When he reached the top, instead of Rapunzel's smiling face, he found the hermit's dark and vengeful face. Before he could understand what was happening, Gothel pushed him out of the window. The fall was long and brutal. Leo fell into the thick thorn bushes that grew around the tower. Searing pain invaded his body, but the worst wound was in his eyes. The merciless thorns blinded him. When he regained consciousness, he was alone, lost and blind in the dark forest. Desperately, he called out to Rapunzel, his voice echoing through the silent trees. "Rapunzel, Rapunzel." The beloved's name was a lament, a cry of pain and longing. He wandered aimlessly through the woods, stumbling, falling, guided only by the sound of the wind and the faint hope of meeting Rapunzel again. Even blind and injured, Prince Leo would not give up. His love for Rapunzel was his compass, the driving force that prevented him from succumbing to despair, propelling him on an arduous and uncertain search, but driven by the inextinguishable flame of true love. Years have passed since the fall of the prince and Rapunzel's exile. Leo, blind and disoriented, wandered about, surviving on the kindness of strangers and the fruits of the forest. His heart, however, never gave up hope of meeting Rapunzel again. Guided by the memory of her voice, he traveled through barren lands and dense forests, always on the lookout for any melody that might sound familiar. One day, exhausted and discouraged, Leo arrived at a vast and inhospitable desert. The sun was beating down on the parched land, and the silence was almost total, broken only by the whisper of the hot wind. As night fell, bringing with it a welcome coolness, Leo listened. Coming from far away, a soft and melancholy song floated in the night air. His heart jumped in his chest. He knew that voice, the melody he loved so much. With renewed energy, guided by the faint sound, he staggered toward the song. He approached hesitantly, until finally he saw her. Rapunzel sat alone in the pale moonlight, singing her sadness to the starry sky. Hearing his footsteps, she turned, and her eyes met the prince's blind eyes. A cry of joy and surprise escaped his lips. "Leo!" she exclaimed, running over to him. Tears welled up in his eyes, hot and abundant, falling onto the prince's wounded face. And then, a miracle happened. Upon contact with Rapunzel's magical tears, the darkness that surrounded Leo's eyes began to dissipate. The light returned, gradually, filling his vision with colors and shapes. He could see again. He looked at Rapunzel's face, bathed in tears of happiness, and hugged her tightly, a hug of relief, love, and reunion. With his vision restored, Prince Leo felt a new determination ignite his spirit. He would not rest until the hermit paid for her cruelty. Together, Rapunzel and Leo decided to return to the tower. The journey back was faster, guided by hope and the desire for justice. When they reached the tower, they found it silent and deserted. The hermit, confident in her wickedness, did not expect the return of her victims. Leo climbed the tower, this time without using his braids, finding a secret path that Rapunzel had discovered in her years of captivity. Upon entering the chamber, the hermit was there, surprised and furious to see the prince safe and sound. "How dare you return?" he hissed, his eyes filled with hatred. "I came to settle the score," Leo replied in a firm voice. "You used magic to harm us. Now it will be your own magic that defeats you." The hermit laughed in disbelief, but Leo had learned about the magical powers of Rapunzel and the hermit's hair. With a quick gesture, he picked up a piece of the cut braids that were still on the floor and pronounced the magical words he had heard the hermit use: "Golden hair, shine and hold." To the hermit's horror, the braids animated, enveloping her and imprisoning her in an invisible prison of golden magic. Her screams of anger and frustration echoed through the tower as Leo and Rapunzel left her behind, sealing the evil woman's fate in the very tower she had used to imprison Rapunzel. Hand in hand, Rapunzel and Prince Leo left the forest behind, heading to the village where Rapunzel was born. When they arrived, they were received with amazement and joy. Rapunzel's parents, aged but with hearts full of hope, could hardly believe the reunion with their lost daughter. Tears of happiness flowed freely as the family gathered together, celebrating the end of a long nightmare. The news of the golden-haired princess's return spread quickly throughout the kingdom. Prince Leo introduced Rapunzel to his family, and everyone was enchanted by her beauty and kindness. A grand wedding was prepared, a party that celebrated love, freedom, and justice. The entire village participated. The streets were filled with music, dancing, and joy. Rapunzel and Leo exchanged vows under a radiant blue sky, promising eternal love and companionship. And so Rapunzel, the princess who was imprisoned in a tower, and the prince who found her, lived happily ever after. They ruled with wisdom and compassion, inspired by their own experiences, always seeking justice and freedom for all. Rapunzel's story has become a legend, a tale of hope and true love, passed down from generation to generation, reminding everyone that even in the darkest moments, freedom and love can blossom and bring the most beautiful happiness. Back in Leo's kingdom, life has taken on a new rhythm. Rapunzel, now a princess, discovered a world beyond the tower, vibrant and complex. The castle, once distant in his dreams, became his home. Together, Rapunzel and Leo began to rule, each bringing their unique qualities to the task. Leo, with his experience of the outside world and knowledge of the kingdom's laws, and Rapunzel, with her intuitive wisdom and compassionate heart, shaping a just and benevolent government. They worried about each subject, from the nobles to the humblest peasants, always remembering the difficulties that the people faced. Rapunzel, in particular, dedicated herself to understanding the needs of the kingdom's women and children, promoting education and care. One day, a land dispute arose between two neighboring villages, threatening peace. Leo, ready to apply the law rigorously, was surprised by Rapunzel's approach. She proposed listening to both sides calmly and seeking a solution that would benefit everyone, not just one winner. With patience and empathy, Rapunzel mediated the conflict, finding a middle ground that satisfied both villages. Leo admired Rapunzel's wisdom, realizing that governing was not just about enforcing laws, but also about understanding people and seeking harmony. Together they strengthened the kingdom, not just with justice, but with love and understanding, building a prosperous and peaceful future for all. Despite the happiness and prosperity in the kingdom, Rapunzel's dark past still cast occasional shadows. Rumors about the hermit and her magical powers persisted among the people, generating fear and distrust. Some whispered that Gothel's evil magic still hung over the land, that the princess, raised by a witch, could bring misfortune. Rapunzel, aware of these fears, felt the need to dispel the shadows of the past. She and Leo decided to face the rumors head-on. They organized a festival to celebrate the joy and unity of the kingdom, inviting everyone, from the richest to the poorest. At the festival, Rapunzel shared her story, not with shame, but with courage. She spoke about her imprisonment in the tower, about Gothel's cruelty, but also about her journey in search of freedom and true love. His honesty touched the hearts of the people. They saw not a cursed princess, but a strong, compassionate woman who had overcome great adversity. Leo, alongside Rapunzel, reinforced his trust and love for her, showing everyone that the past did not define the future. Together, they demonstrated that true magic lay not in dark powers, but in love, kindness, and the courage to face one's fears. The festival became a milestone, a turning point where fear turned into respect and distrust into admiration for their princess. Years passed, and Rapunzel and Leo's kingdom flourished, known for its justice, prosperity, and, most of all, the happiness of its people. Rapunzel and Leo not only ruled, but also raised a family. Their children, growing up in an environment of love and freedom, inherited their parents' kindness and curiosity. They listened fascinated to the stories of the tower, the hermit, and the journey in search of freedom, learning valuable lessons about courage, perseverance, and the strength of love. Rapunzel and Leo have always made a point of teaching their children the importance of freedom, not just physical freedom, but the freedom to be who they really are, to follow their dreams, and to love without fear. On quiet nights, in the castle garden, Rapunzel and Leo gazed at the stars, remembering everything they had overcome. They looked at each other with the same love as their first meeting in the tower, a love that withstood time and trials. His story, told and retold, became more than a legend, a beacon of hope for all who sought freedom and true love. And so, Rapunzel and Leo's legacy endured, not only in the laws and prosperity of the kingdom, but in the hearts of every person who heard their story, inspiring them to believe in the magic of love, the importance of freedom, and the beauty of a truly happy ending.